municipal building and filed with the clerk of the Borough of Emerson. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called to order at 7:35 p.m. If we could have the roll call, please.
Mr. Garlick?
Here.
Mrs. Mara?
Here.
Mrs. Riccardi?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Pastar?
Here.
Ms. Tamayo?
Here.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're going to start on our agenda a brief report by our auditor. So Mr. Swisher is going to give an update on the status of the audit.
Okay, and we recently completed our audit, and tonight you have two reports you have to consider. The first is the auditor's management report. That's the smaller of your two reports. This is a report that's required by the state of New Jersey, Department of Education. They ask us to look at certain areas like your payroll, your ASSA, your purchasing, and if we note anything during audit that we feel needs to have a finding recommendation, they would be listed out here, and then John would have to prepare a corrective action plan for that. This past year we had no findings or recommendations, so no need for a corrective action plan, a clean report. The second report you have tonight to consider is your annual comprehensive financial report. These are where your financial statements are. We get the financial statements from John's office. We apply our auditing procedures, and we prepare this report. And at the end of our audit, we have to render an opinion on those financial statements. You guys have received an unmodified opinion. That's considered a clean opinion. That means that we feel these financial statements are fairly stated. We also have a report on government auditing standards and a single audit report in here, much like your financial report. That was a clean report, unmodified, no modifications. So both reports are clean. Fiscally, the district is once again on firm financial ground. Are you able to maintain your reserves and are fiscally healthy? Is there any specific question anybody has?
I think it's pretty same as last year, right?
Yeah, you guys have been pretty consistent, and like I said, I appreciate Phil and John, everybody in their office is very helpful conducting our office or audit, so we do appreciate that.
Great. If no other questions, I think we're good. Thank you very much for the report.
Have a good night.
Mr. Swisher.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good luck with your next meeting.
We're going to do the memorial presentation.
Next on the agenda, if we can have Mrs. Gagliano and Mrs. Felice do the presentation for the Memorial School.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you. There we go. Well, good evening, Mr. Pasdar, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Nisanoff, Mr. Momora, and all those that joined us this evening. It's a wonderful time of celebration and reflection at this time of year, and we're excited to be able to share some of the growth that we've seen at Memorial School throughout this current school year since our last presentation as well. Each year at Memorial School, I launch with a little bit of a theme. This year's themes was small steps and big dreams. And that helps us take each step forward to achieve the goals and dreams for our students' growth, as well as our own growth as a school. Tonight I'll be sharing some of our programs that create a positive culture and support our students in the area of social emotional learning. The two newest programs are the Heart-Centered Classroom, which Mrs. Felice will help share and highlight tonight, as well as the after-school clubs, which were launched for the first time last year at Memorial. In terms of fostering academic achievement, we've taken so many steps in adding a new position for academic support in the areas of ELA and math, working with consultants as well in math and ESL to further our teachers' skill sets, and we've been collecting and analyzing data across the school to inform our next steps. The professional learning groups continue to push forward in learning and planning for our school. A new group formed this year, which I'll highlight, which focuses on our tiered systems of supports for all of our students across the school. Each of our stepping stones lead us to greater success, which is the ultimate goal for all of our students, having them reach their true potential and all of their dreams. new leadership positions that are up for approval this evening as academic coordinators. Will provide additional data collection, conversations, collaborations within our grade levels, but also time for for teachers to collaborate across grade levels, look at student data, have those conversations to guide our own instruction, and then again for our students to continue to grow. To start with the Heart-Centered Classroom, just a little background on the program. It's a whole child approach that really integrates social emotional learning along with the academic development of each of our children. It focuses on fostering emotional intelligence, empathy, and personal growth to increase that traditional learning as the outcome. In regard to building empathy, we've seen delightful results with Mrs. Felice and all of our teachers now using the program, as it encourages students to understand and respect the feelings, perspectives, and experiences of other students around them. It creates the safe and supportive environment where the students feel valued. It also builds a great sense of community within the classroom, promoting cooperation, respect, and inclusivity. Positive interactions, problem-solving skills, and increased teamwork are really byproducts of the program with a strong sense of community among their classmates. On the academic side, students are able to engage and focus more when they feel emotionally safe and supported in their classroom. As the program provides strategies for self-regulation and mindfulness, students manage stress and their own worries, which actually often detracts from their learning. So now it encourages reflection and self-awareness to improve the comprehension, the concentration, and cognitive performance. Mrs. Felice found and piloted this program last year with great success, and now we've expanded it to pre-K to 1 classrooms. So we're going to offer Mrs. Felice a little bit of time to kind of bring that program to life. I have to say, when I walked in last year, and I think some other administrators walked in, you could just feel the sense of calm, the strong engagement of students. And I was in her classroom last Friday, and right before the holidays. There's a buzz all around the building. But as I walked in and I sat down, and that's the picture right here, as I walked in and sat down, they were just truly engaged. Everybody was kind of quietly engaged, humming along, doing their work, and it just really is a true sense of the program and how it carries over into their daily work. So we'll let Mrs. Felice kind of chat about her experiences with the program.
Thank you, Mrs. Gagliano. Thanks to the board. I really appreciate you being able to let me share the Heart-Centered Classroom. So the summer before this past summer, I ended my school year and I felt like a little defeated. My kids were learning, my students were learning, but they would come in and feel, have a lot of strong feelings. They'd come in often crying and distracted and needing a lot more than a teacher and an assistant could help them with throughout the day. And I saw this program on Instagram, and the few teachers that were doing it were claiming that it had great success. It wasn't a curriculum, it was kind of like a classroom management. So I said to my husband, I'm not sure if I should buy this. It's like $270, and he's like, go for it. So all summer I watched videos of this person in action, and the words she used, the characters that she taught the kids about, and I began my school year totally different than I ever had. Every morning the students would come in and we would do something called a feeling share. And we'd sit on the rug, and first I would tell them how I was feeling, and then we'd go around and each of them would have a chance to tell me how they were feeling. So before we even started doing any work, they all had a chance to talk to their teacher and their students and the classmates and get off their back maybe the things that they were bringing from home. So before I expected them to do work, they had been heard and seen, and we all knew if somebody was maybe dealing with something that maybe they needed our support. And then after the feeling share every morning, I would teach them a word that had to do with character, maybe kindness or respect, and I would look up the definition, and often we would learn a song for those words, and then the students would say an affirmation like, I will be respectful, and then we would go off and start our day. During the days, not every day, but I would teach them about different characters like kind Cal, respectful Randy, patient Pam, and how all those different characters displayed those character traits throughout the school, in the gym, in the bathroom, in the lunchroom. So instead of me trying to tell the kids to be good, what does that even mean? I was teaching them how to show good character throughout the day. And then we also learned about integrity, and the children learned a song, and they knew that integrity meant doing the right thing even when no one was watching. So this common language that the children had really helped them throughout the day. At the end of every day, I would choose 3 children who had gone above and beyond and shown good character. And then we would sing a song to them about how they were special. And after that, we'd go and sit on the back rug and do something called shout-outs. And this was a chance for the classmates to share people who had done something above and beyond for them. And often I would learn things that I had not seen during the day. Like somebody would say, somebody was so kind to me, I fell on the playground, they helped me get up and made sure I was okay. Or somebody, I didn't have anybody to play with, and this child helped me. And this all became sort of self-perpetuating, like it felt good for them to hear that I noticed the things they were doing, and they loved hearing their friends notice all the good things they were doing. So like when we sit in our circle to do the shout outs, if somebody is complimenting them and saying they did something good, you see them like smiling and so happy and feeling good inside. And we would talk about how like being kind feels really good to the person you're being kind to, but it also feels so good inside yourself to do those, show those wonderful character traits. In the beginning of the year, I noticed that it was kind of hard to get all these things in. And after time, though, it became so much easier to get the work done because the children weren't distracted with things that were bothering them. And they were also so helpful to each other. The years before, they would come in, maybe kids wouldn't be able to unpack, they'd be like, somebody would have their stuff all sprawled around, but it was no longer up to me and my assistant. The children on their own were all of a sudden helping each other take care of whatever problems they might have. I always worked to make my class a community, but it's become beyond that, where they all accept such responsibility for everything in the class. Like, I've got that, that's what you hear in my classroom all the time. If somebody misses a project and I'm ready to show them what they missed the last week, one of my students might say, Mrs. Felice, I got this, I can show them how to do it. So this whole program has really completely changed the culture of my classroom. And I said to Mrs. Gagliano, I think most Americans don't like going to work, and I feel really fortunate because when I come into my class, it's a place where everyone's kind, and they're kind to me, they're kind to each other. It just feels really good to be in a place like that. Academically, they seem to really be able to concentrate on their work. They don't get distracted. We have other language that we use, and now the other classes are using it too. Like when I'm standing in front of the classroom, that's my teacher zone. When I'm in the teacher zone, it means I'm talking and you're listening. So even if I'm all of a sudden I'm talking to them from back there, they know I'm in my teacher zone, their eyes are on me, their voice is at a 0. We talk about taking turns, and when I'm trying to teach them, it's my turn to talk, and then they have a turn to talk later. So really they are so focused on their learning, and last year I thought, well, maybe it's just this one year. I don't know if it'll happen again, but it seems to be really working again this year. I was a little nervous about my students going off to first grade. They're used to somebody listening to their feelings, and luckily Mrs. Gagliano has stretched it, so now the first grade teachers are doing it, the kindergarten teachers and pre-K teachers. So anyway, I really appreciate Mrs. Gagliano's support that I was able to do this, and I appreciate you being able to tell me to be able to tell you about it. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Can you share what
Oh,
this first one is on the left?
so this is our, in the morning when we do our feeling share, and that's the screen that I show them. And you can see I'm going like this, I say to the children, scan your brain, scan your body, how are you feeling? And then on that slide, there'll be the word of the day and the affirmation. And then the next.
Do you want to introduce what they're going to see?
Oh, so the next slide I'm going to show you is where they do shout outs at the end of the day, where they're going to share with their friends if anybody went above and beyond and made their day special.
And I want you to think about somebody that might have gone above and beyond today and done something kind, helpful, responsible. Okay, let's see who we want to shout out. I'm going to shout out Zachary. I thought Zachary handled the fact that he didn't have the lunch that he wanted, and he was able to just get over it and handle being a little bit upset, right, Zachary? That was really awesome that you.
I saw Logan and Dylan and Zachary playing nice with me. I special when we were in our center. I saw the whole class being good at library in Mrs. Lance's class. I saw Hunter playing
Anyway, a lot of them is talking about nice at this feeling share, but one day, like, something kind of struck me. In the morning, one little boy had shared that his grandfather had died. So during feeling share, a few other children would say, I feel sad for him that his grandfather died. And then when we went back to the rug later in the day to do the shout outs, that little boy said, I feel happy that these 3 children showed me empathy because my grandfather died. So, empathy is another word that they learn in the class. So it's really like, I feel like they really notice and appreciate what people do for them. And I really did it to try and get better control and have a great classroom. But I realized that what it's also going to do is help them, I'm hoping, as they get older, because it's really hard to be a kid, a teenager, with social media and everything. And I feel like if they know how to share their feelings and support each other and get strong and just empathize with people, that maybe they'll have better tools to help them as they move through the grades. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
She highlighted so many of the successes that the students have achieved. And to piggyback on that, 90% of the students in her classroom last year ended on reading level or above. And as we follow them into first grade, 45% of those students are excelling at reading. They're above level, 45% are on level. And it truly shows that those foundations that she's starting in kindergarten are still carrying over forward, which is tremendous. The feedback from teachers who are adding into that program this year has been very positive. The parents, especially those parents of children who were in the program last year, have also shared positive feedback, saying that they see that carry over at home with the empathy, the kindness, and just their overall demeanor. So it's quite phenomenal. To expand the program throughout the school, we've also had students, as this photo shows, stand up at handy meetings and teach the rest of the school, because right now this is in pre-K to 1. So now we're teaching the 2nd and 3rd graders what some of these are. And they may know the words, but it's really direct instruction from the students. They're showing Respectful Rebecca, what it's like to be respectful, what respect means, what does it look like and sound like across our school. So the students now are teaching the rest of the school. And Mrs. Felice's class every once in a while comes up and sings a song about respect or whatever the trait is. So we're really trying to spread it throughout the building even further. And also, Mrs. Felice has offered professional development to the teachers in our school on our professional development days, talking about how she's used the program in the past, how to navigate the online system, and really supporting them in the implementation of it. So we thank her for all of her work in bringing this to us, and then supporting our teachers and our students using the program. Right now, the program, the developer of the program really targets those early childhood years, like pre-K, K1. She is looking to expand the program in the future, so as she does, we'll look to try and add that across our grade levels as well. Another wonderful introduction at our school last spring was after-school clubs. I know Volanos had such great success with it over the past many years, but this past year we were able to offer 6 after-school clubs, 8 sessions across the board, and over 115 second and third graders participated last year. So a huge percentage of students were really able to join us and engage and get enriching activities after school hours. One thing that I'd really like to highlight is that the benefit of this program, it's at no cost to our students. The district really supports that, and we appreciate that. I know there's surrounding towns which really do have a cost for students to access programs like this, and we offer it at no cost to really make it as accessible to all of our students as possible. And we even offer the shuttle bus after the program is over to be able to help and assist families in picking up their children at the end of the day. We're very excited. We're starting to plan the after-school clubs for this coming spring as well, so we'll see what is new and available for students to join this year. The amount of student academic support has increased greatly this year. There's a wealth of research on how important the formative years are in a child's education, and in looking at our data over the last few years, it was really evident that we wanted to boost as much support as we could to help our students solidify those early years and those foundational skills. Mrs. Valla has joined our student support team as another basic skills instructor. She is working and focusing primarily on kindergarten and first grade, while Mrs. Voigt is working with second and third graders, and they're both supporting students in the areas of ELA and math. Mrs. Sims also provides student support in the area of Orton-Gillingham instruction, helping students build their strong foundations of phonics to build proficiency in reading and writing. At the beginning of the year, our student support team, those 3 teachers and I all met. We reviewed baseline data for our students, developed additional assessments and screeners to identify student areas of needs, and we determined the best path forward for each of our students who are utilizing our Tier 2 and Tier 3 services. The team is currently working with 40 students, providing instruction in ELA and math. And in our last team meeting, we were excited to review the data and be able to graduate and exit for students out of the program, which is our goal. We want to flood them with as much support as we can, watch them grow and celebrate their success. And then we'll keep working in these cycles and reviewing our data to get our students growing as much as possible. Across the school, we also continue with partnerships and collaborations of strong staff members. We have a lot of support. Mrs. Daly works with groups, Mrs. Moran works with groups, sometimes they all work together with different groups to really support children in so many different areas to build up their social, their emotional, their fine motor skills, their behavioral, any behavioral needs. Any of the needs that we have, we want to provide the academics, but also the well-rounded nature to develop the students in so many areas. And those collaborative groups and lessons really add into those supports for our students. While our pre-K to 1 teachers are implementing the heart-centered classroom this year, our second and third grade teachers are really working to use Otis. It's a software program that really allows us to house student assessment data and offers a wealth of analytic tools. Volanos had great success with it over the past year or so. They piloted it and they've been implementing it, and our second and third grade teachers are starting to use it as well. Seeing the overall collection of student data by grade, or you can analyze it by grade, by gender, by ethnicity, like you can take it and analyze it in so many different ways. I captured 2 of data pieces that we found after we input our Fontes and Pinnell beginning of the year reading assessment data. And it's so wonderful to see that so many of our students entering third grade are on or above level, as well as our second grade. First grade data is not in notice as they're not using it. My old pencil and paper data shows that about 73% are on or above level 2. So it's really nice to see where the levels are, and then we can see how we can target and support the students that may need extra support, or even enrich the students that are ready to keep going and growing in their reading skills. Later this year, we'll be adding in writing data, using our rubrics, adding in the data for the collection of samples from our students, and being able to track skills that they're really proficient in, any areas that we can help support them in, but also their growth over time as they continue as writers and readers. So it's an exciting opportunity for our upper grade teachers to really dig into that data. Another piece that I looked for as we try and build as much support and enthusiasm for students to continue reading over the summer, we want to kind of get away from that summer slide and really help them grow, even over the summer months when they're not with us. So we really looked into some of the comparisons between where the students left last year in June to where they entered this year in September in the area of reading levels. The goal is always to maintain what they've achieved up to that point in June when they come in, or even grow. And the average summer reading loss is actually 2 months of instruction. And that's a lot when you're talking about a first grader. Sometimes that's more than one level of reading. And the national average is 50% of the students do have that summer slide. But what you can see here is that so many of our students, I mean, we've got over 80% of third graders maintaining or growing. Even all of the grades were really well above that national average, which is so exciting to see. We want our students to continue to maintain and even grow, even when they're not with us. Last summer, helping out some of the data points here, we were very fortunate to have a grant for the C program, the Summer Enrichment Academy. The grant targeted 3rd and 4th grade students, and any unfilled spots with those grade levels, we were able to add more students. 14 Memorial students were able to participate in the program who could use that boost over the summer, and 79% of those students continued to maintain or increase over the summer. So it's really great data to show that some of those programs in the summer really do help support our students' growth. We also partnered with the library, the public library last year, to develop and kind of get students excited about reading over the summer. And we always continue to look for additional ways to highlight the importance of reading over the summer. Our PLGs and our student support team will continue to review the research and data and try and plan ways to help those students throughout the summer continue all of their learning. Teachers' continued growth is also at the forefront at Memorial School. Over the years, we've worked with a math consultant, Nancy Schultz, going out for professional development with her, and she's phenomenal to be able to share resources and insights on programs. This year, we're adding in a consultant to come into us. Now they can work with groups, and they can really further develop our skill sets in the area of math instruction. As our student support team has also grown, we've added resources for them. There is a new progress monitoring, instruction and progress monitoring program called Bridges that we've added for our student support team. Mrs. Valla and Mrs. Voigt are using the program to provide direct instruction with sequential building lessons. Everything's hands-on, and there's a strong progress monitoring tool in there as well. After every 5 lessons, they take a quick little assessment of where the students are, and then it can plan the next steps going forward. So it's a really great way for small groups to fill in any gaps that they might have in their mathematics skills, to be able to get that strong foundation, because we know that it just builds and builds and builds from those early foundational skills. We also recently welcomed a consultant in the area of ESL to provide greater insight into the cultural differences in learning, as well as the trajectory of learning to speak, read, and write a second language. The resources and information shared were extremely beneficial. We've utilized them and referenced them quite a bit, even since she was here just a little month or 2 ago. They're being used, the resources and ideas are being used in classrooms, and the IRS team is also using those as we plan supports and different resources for students that might be multi-language learners. We currently have 49 students at Memorial School who have a second language at home. And that number seems to have been growing over the past couple of years, and there's like 11 or 12 different languages. So in understanding the different languages, how students are able to process in different languages, it really helps benefit us on how to provide that instruction the best way that we can. The INRS team has also expanded. Several parents that had a plan last year came and joined us, and they looked like, wow, there's a lot of people here this year. Our whole student support team kind of comes. Mrs. Voigt, Mrs. Valla, sometimes Mrs. Sims if she works with that student. We've also added our LDTC. Mrs. Foca, she comes to join us because she also has another lens and other ideas and resources that can come to the table to provide as much support that we can, provide opportunities for strategies, try to review the student data, and track the progress of our students. So having all of those eyes and brains at the table is really helpful to support our students, and parents know that there's a whole team here working to help their child. So it's a wonderful collaboration there. We also have the addition of Mike Grubick as a SLEO across our elementary schools. Now with Officer Grubick and Officer Murphy, we have a full-time SLEO at both schools. They do rotate month by month so that we have somebody in our school that knows our practices, our procedures full-time and supports our safety and our security in the buildings. And the C program I highlighted was a very successful program last year. And we also have a win-win with the FDU Orton-Gillingham certification program. We partner with FDU, who is coming to work with our teachers, giving them the skills to get their Orton-Gillingham certification. And the win-win is that our teachers are learning, but also during their practicum, they're actually bringing in students from our schools to work one-on-one with them, teaching them the skills. So the students get free tutoring, the teachers are learning, and it really is that win-win situation. So it's another great opportunity to help our students. The PLGs continue at Memorial School. As outlined in our district strategic plan, they're really going and growing, which is quite nice to see. They meet monthly, mostly on the professional development days and the additional single session days throughout the year. And it's a significant time where they can just sit together to collaborate, research, and plan further growth for our school and for our students. There's a great initiative to really go deeper this year, digging into some of the data, digging into the planning, and I'm going to highlight several of our PLGs and the work that they've done so far. The first one that we'll kind of shout out is the Reading and Assessment Group has worked diligently over a year or so to dig into the proficiencies, the standards, what they look like for our students. They reviewed the standards by the state. They generated rubrics for each of those identified. So on the left, there's the rubric for the skill, how students could be preparing, developing, proficient, or excelling. And there's a lot of talk back and forth to make sure that we're really noting everything the right way. We're really helping our students move from one level to the next. And then once the ELA work was done, it has now updated our report cards in all of those standards. Going forward, they're going to start working on math, really digging in with a consultant in their own group, looking at the standards, and then you'll see that come alive in our report card on the math side in the future as well. A new group is the multi-tiered systems of supports for us. It's led by Mrs. Voigt, one of our basic skills teachers, and the group is working on really refining and growing our tiered systems of supports. They started with collecting and analyzing data, and they're working to collaborate with staff and families to really outline and implement our tiered system of supports. They're working on creating documents such as program guides. What is it? How do you access it? What's the criteria to get in? What's the criteria to monitor and then exit the students out of any services they might need? They're also, one of the goals is to, as we're around the table for our INRS team, we're going to give some strategies that we're going to use at school, and then we're going to give you some resources. They're going to have like takeaways or give it, grab and goes of resources that parents can use at home to help support their children at home as well. And that's something that we're excited to be able to develop. They've been working on some of the documents. These are our universal supports that everybody gets. These are our tiered supports, tier 2, when there's a small group pullout. They're really refining and adding into each of those areas, developing new screeners, developing new assessments, and really adding on to our repertoire of what we can offer our students. They're looking to identify the current levels that the students are at, what resources would be best for each student, track that progress. And they're also developing a dashboard for families and for faculty They know there's a lot of acronyms in education, so that might be helpful for families. Really, just resource guides and ways to help support their children. So there'll be a dashboard that they're going to create for everybody. I think those parent resources are going to be very beneficial in the end, but it's also helping to level set where we are. What are we doing? How are we making it the best we can? Let's all be on that same page and see how we can grow from there. So across the board, we look forward to all of the steps that we take, elevating our students higher, and watching everybody and celebrating along the way. I love the little guy who's clapping on his classmate as they're climbing the wall. So not only do we want to help them succeed, but we want to cheer them all along the way as well. So there's Memorial.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions for Mrs. Gagliano or Mrs. Felice? One question regarding the SLEOs. I'm
Yes.
curious, the interaction between the students and the officers. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Is there a fear for some? Is it fully?
You could see them high-fiving kids
Yeah.
all down the hallway throughout the day. And it's funny because, they're both Officer Mikes, so
Right,
it's kind of
right.
easy. And a lot of kids say they look like each other, so sometimes I'm not sure that they know.
It's two different.
Right. But they truly are a wonderful support. They're very warm and welcoming to the children, to the parents at drop-off and dismissal. And they're just kind of, the kids know, and we highlight that sometimes at our handy meetings and different things, they're here to help. And that's their
Right.
job. They're always here to kind of help us out.
Right.
Always smiling, always saying hi to the kids. So
Great.
it's wonderful.
Good to know. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you.
Just, Ms. Gagliano, thank you.
Yes.
Excellent job. Ms. Felice, thank you for your work tonight, but thank you for also taking that initiative all on your own and sharing what you've learned with all your faculty. I think that's just fantastic. Having stepped in your classroom last year, it was so wonderful to see. It was great to see it in action and great to see you in action. Thank you again to all your faculty that help. You can see that great things are definitely happening at Memorial School, and I know you're working really, really hard. I know Alice is supporting a lot of what you're doing, but we also know that you've got a great team of faculty that has really stepped up and is working so hard. So thank you.
Thank you for honoring that.
Okay, thank you for that. So with that, we'll go ahead and start the public session. Mr. Smith, would you mind making a motion to open the meeting to the public?
I motion to open the meeting to the public for input and comments on agenda items only.
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Riccardi, all in favor?
Aye.
If no comments, Mrs. Mara, would you mind closing it out?
I'll move to close the meeting to the public for input and comments.
Seconded.
Seconded by Mr. Grolick, all in favor?
Aye.
The board has had the opportunity to review the agenda items and to discuss those items. And with that, Mr. Grolick, would you mind adopting motion A, please?
I move to adopt all items on the above consent agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Mara. Roll call, please.
Mr. Grolick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mrs. Riccardi,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Pasdar.
Aye. Thank you. We'll move on to committee reports. Facilities, Buildings, and Grounds Chair, Mr. Grolick.
Hi, good evening. Just one brief update for the community. The final design on the baseball and softball field turf project, that's been completed, and it's currently being reviewed by the board and administration. That's all I have for tonight.
Great, thank you, Mr. Grolick. For Budget and Negotiations and Finance Committee report, the only item to report on is that the committee has met with the teachers union to discuss the contract. We had a great meeting, actually. We are conducting our internal analysis, and we'll be meeting with the union in the coming weeks to continue those conversations, and I will provide an update as they develop. Moving on to curriculum instruction and student achievement, Mrs. Mara.
Thank you. Today, myself, Mrs. Riccardi, Dr. Nisanoff, and Mrs. Opperman had the opportunity to meet as the academic committee. We discussed testing data and wanted to note that testing data from July and October is available on our website, so you can certainly take a look at that if you're interested in deep diving into the data itself. It has been presented already by Mrs. Opperman at those 2 Board of Education meetings. We also had the opportunity to review certain data from Volano, and I know that Mrs. Riccardi had remarked how amazing that this data is and how interactive it is to be able to, like Mrs. Gagliano was mentioning, take these data sets and really deep dive into them and see more than just a heat graph, but really see what's bubbling underneath those graphs and being able to then take that data and repurpose it. And I say this on a bi-monthly basis at my report, but Mrs. Opperman really is not just looking to collect data and let it just sit there. She's really looking to utilize the data in such an incredible way that really benefits not only our students, but also our entire staff, our teaching staff. So it was fantastic to review another great data set from her. We also briefly touched on what our curriculum cycle is. There's nothing extraordinary to report at this juncture as to our curriculum cycle. We discussed that, as I had mentioned, actually, I believe it was at October's meeting or perhaps was August meeting, how the SAT test has now made its way back into colleges' minds when they're evaluating admissions for students, and how important the SAT exam is becoming again in their considerations. So at the high school level, there will be SAT prep for grades 10 through 11 through the Khan Academy over the course of the spring. And there will be individualized sessions or dedicated periods for students to be able to use the resources from the Khan Academy. One thing that I wanted to, as I always try to do with the academic committees, really see where there's like a tie through. So we saw from Mrs. Gagliano's presentation tonight that she was deep diving into the PLGs and the proficiency work that's at our elementary level. And similarly, Mrs. Opperman had explained to us during our meeting that the SAT also has insight bands, which mimic very much so these proficiency charts, these scoring matrices, and gives helpful feedback to students as to if they're scoring in a certain range, test range, what they could do to improve. And that's very similar to what we're doing here at our schools. So you can just see the tie through how thoughtful it is, starting from elementary school all the way up through test preparation, and seeing that continuity through our schools is just really fantastic. It really shows that we're all on the same page, working towards a proficiency matrix that's really going to be very beneficial for the students at various stages of their academic careers. We did also talk about Otis, working through a few challenges here and there from some of the teachers, but Mrs. Opperman is well aware of them. She's on top of it. She's really trying to work to finesse some of those bumps in the road. We have also talked with Dr. Nisanoff about some special education programming for the upcoming school year as well. We just started really just throwing around some softball ideas as to some areas of improvement, whether it be with teaching staff or just thoughtful ways that we can bring more programming to our school that could really help, again, our students in the long run. We discussed professional development, reviewed some of the professional development days where we had actually some of our own teachers making presentations. We were able to review 2 of them, specifically Ms. McLaughlin's and Ms. Hill's presentations that were respectfully presented over the past few weeks with resounding success, and a lot of pride from administration to be able to see these presentations. And again, Mrs. Riccardi and I both remarked how fantastic we thought they both were. And then looking ahead, we are still discussing and taking our time to have meaningful discussions about AI policy and how that fits in our district, how it fits in for our students, recognizing that for a single school or a single community district such as ours, we might need to meet the needs of AI at different varying levels. So we have AI coordinators that will hopefully be able to start really digging into some of the data and hit the ground and get feedback from our teaching staff, really dive into the classrooms and see where AI is rearing its head, not in a bad way. I mean, it's here, it's not going anywhere, but really figuring out how the school district is going to manage it, work with it, cooperate with it, how that can bleed down into the classroom, to our students, etc. So definitely a kudos to the administration for taking a very thoughtful approach to how we're going to tackle AI in general. And that's my report.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the individual board member reports. Mr. Grolick.
Thank you. Good evening, Emerson. Hope everybody's doing well. I'd like to thank Mr. Swisher for his presentation on our annual comprehensive financial report, but a bigger thanks to our business office for continuing their amazing work. Really thrilled and not surprised to hear that we remain in good financial standing, so thank you all. Thank you so much tonight to Mrs. Gagliano and Ms. Felice for your presentations tonight. I'm so thrilled to hear about this heart-centered classroom, and thank you, Ms. Felice, for taking the initiative to find it and pilot it, and hearing that Mrs. Gagliano is willing to check it out and use the data and consider it and turnkey it. It sounds like a fabulous place to be a teacher and to work and to feel supported, and so just really delighted to see a lot of that stuff we saw on the screen tonight, so thank you so much. Loving the use of data that's going on there, and I love hearing it district-wide, but it's really great to see it down at the younger grades, specifically for targeted and extra support. And I'm really thrilled to hear about the new professional learning group for MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. It's just really awesome to see teachers be supported and take initiative on those endeavors. So really thrilled with the presentation. I thank you so much. I'd like to congratulate the students and staff who participated in Volano's winter concert. And I'm pretty psyched and wish everyone the best of luck for the high school concert coming up this week. Best of luck to our winter athletes as those season starts to ramp up. And finally, I'd just like to wish the Emerson community a happy winter holiday season, a great new year, and we'll see you soon. This concludes my report.
Great, thank you, Mr. Grolick. Mrs. Mara.
Thank you. I'd like to extend a thank you to the central office and to Mr. Marmora and the entire team for another clean audit. Thank you for letting us listen to another swift report from Mr. Swisher. Mrs. Gagliano, thank you very much for your presentation. I feel like it's such a gift and it's very timely that it's the December meeting that we get to hear about how wonderful Memorial is. And we already know that, but you all are such a gift to us, and it's a gift to our students and our kids that are able to be there. So thank you for delivering your presentation. Mrs. Felice, I'm first of all, I will say I have had feedback from parents completely unsolicited that come up to me that say, my student is entering into first grade after going through kindergarten. It was such a fantastic experience, this heart-centered approach. So teachers and families are talking about this, and they're bringing it back to us, and it really is reverberating, and clearly it's reverberating enough that it's expanding, and I think that's fantastic. I want to be in pre-K through 1 in Memorial, talk about feelings and have people be kind and respectful to me all day. But I just also want to say a kudos to you. It's just an example of how talented our teaching staff is and how thoughtful you are to undertake this on a whim after seeing this over the summer, and just to see, if you hadn't taken that first step, then we wouldn't have this fantastic initiative. So thank you. Thank you for that. And lastly, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy holiday season, a healthy one. Enjoy this beautifully extended break. I'm going to try and figure out what to do with Olivia for the, 10 or 12 days. But wishing you all a very happy, healthy holiday, a wonderful winter recess, and we'll see you in January.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Mara. Mrs. Riccardi.
Yes, good evening, everybody.
to echo what you guys have already said. Thank you, Mr. Marmora and the central office for another clean audit. It makes it very easy to sit up here and say, yeah, no comments. But thank you for all the hard work that goes into it. I appreciate it. Mrs. Gagliano, thank you for that presentation. We have absolutely been part of so many of the topics that were highlighted in there, and they really are as true and amazing as you say that they are. So thank you to you and the faculty and staff for all the hard work put into it and the constant vision of how can we grow and make it better. Our children are better for it, and I thank you. Mrs. Felice, I don't even know where to begin with you. Thank you for the self-reflection that it took to make that step and say, what can I do to make this better? I think that is so tremendous and an asset that truly just comes from within. And it's something that you're teaching your students. You said in there that you wanted to create a positive classroom community, and bigger picture, you're not just creating a positive classroom community, you are creating a future for a better community in general, for wherever that your students may end up one day. They say that a memory is made when an emotion meets an event, and you are doing that day in and day out. So thank you for all of your hard work. Congratulations on having that in you and for all of the achievements that you're going to continue to make. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Congratulations and thank you to everybody who participated with the Volano Winter Concert. I was getting videos from parents throughout the night saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe that my child did this. Look at the confidence in them, and I just love it. I'm like, yes, let them thrive and be out there, shine brightly. And I wish all the best to our high school students who will be singing their hearts out this week. Happy holidays to all. I hope it's happy and healthy and that we can all truly appreciate everybody and everything that's around us for what it's worth. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Riccardi. Mr. Smith.
Always last, and I'll have to repeat everything.
Not always.
99% of the time, Bruce. That's okay. I think you count on that being like Mr. Teagan before me to say, I won't bore everybody. Let's get out of there. No, but I do want to thank everyone. You know, one of the things, that audit report is a 3-minute conversation, but I can't even tell you the number of hours of work that goes into that. Being part of the budget team, the financial planning team here, the little work that, Bruce and I participate in with them, the daily input it takes for John and Phil to do it, it's not easy, to say the least. And to have those consistent years of the performance they've shown is tremendous. I'm in the financial world, and I know audits are always, we were joking, audits are always the scary time, and, these guys don't show an ounce of sweat. They do a great job at it. So, not to bore everybody, it's a much bigger achievement than I think we're letting on. So I want to thank them for that. Mrs. Gagliano, Mrs. Felice, I think that presentation was great. Although I think it's interesting how much bad press social media gets, and I'm part of that too. You found it on Instagram. Yeah. So, which I self-reflected and I said, man, I'm sending my brothers and friends stupid reels and memes, and this woman's taking a program and running it up through several grades. So I got to self-reflect on what I'm looking at, But no, it is kind of cool, and I think one of the things that is a good source and a tool, and even though there was some expense to find it was free, and much at ease. So, and kudos to you for taking that, realizing it, identifying it, and getting the staff and everybody behind it to pull together. So thank you. And then I want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all the good stuff, Happy New Year. Good luck to the concerts. Sorry I missed the last one, but and all the activities, and now we go into the winter sports and activities. So,
great. Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll move on to my board president report. Mr. Smith said it very eloquently, on both counts. For one, regarding the audit report, I think we all stand here for a minute or two and we listen to Mr. Swisher make a presentation saying, hey, you guys are clean, everything is good. And we say, any questions, no questions. Well, The reason for that is because of the two gentlemen sitting here, Dr. Nisanoff and Mr. Marmora, and also the ladies who support you behind the scenes. Like Mr. Smith said, we walk in there sometimes and we see the two screens, the giant screen with spreadsheets all over the place. And all of this happens because of the skill, the care, the experience, the knowledge that this entire staff brings to this district. And so for that, I want to thank you each personally, individually, and I would like for you to convey the board's thanks to the entire staff for the work that you do day in and day out, all year long, and to be able to have the auditor stand here and give us a report, a clean report. I always love to hear the words unmodified report, so that's a good thing. So thank you to Mr. Swisher for the presentation, and thank you. I would also like to belabor the point for Mrs. Gagliano and Mrs. Felice. First of all, a fantastic report, but the content, not just the presentation, but the content and what goes behind it. Mrs. Felice, for you to take the initiative to show the care and the love for those kids and to want to improve the system and the program, it means the world to us. You know, as the board, as a community, to the students. I know that my family and I have had the benefit of your love and care with my own children, and so I already knew of you and what you bring to the table. But I just wanted to, again, thank you for being you and doing what you do. And I really feel that you're an example of all of the other teachers that are out there and what you all do. Not to minimize what you did here, but I genuinely believe that this is the type of teachers and people that we have helping our kids learn and grow. So thank you for that. And Mrs. Gagliano, for your leadership to see that and recognize that and to give them the support that they need and they want to be able to do something like that and to try to expand on it. So thank you for your leadership there. I'd like to, again, thank Mr. Biggs and Mrs. Beckley for the work they did with the holiday concert. I watched those kids perform, and I noticed this last year as well, the fun, the looseness, to watch those kids. I think of it as, oh my God, if I was there, you know, they're going to be all stiff and sitting there and not know what to do. And they were just loose and having fun and just enjoying it and spreading the holiday cheer, and it was conveying to the audience, and it was just really great. And I thought they did a great job. So thank you to all the kids, and great work for that, and thank you to Mr. Biggs and Ms. Beckley. I'll move on to the county report. I attended the Brigham County meeting on December 5th. We had two of our assembly women, Rosie Bagoli and Pam Lampett, who were on the State Education Committee. And we discussed the topic of teacher shortage. Real quickly, some of the ideas, and these were just ideas. They were not passing legislation in front of us, but these are some of the things that they're talking about as they move legislation through, potentially removing residency requirements to help ease the teacher shortage, perhaps a more flexible cap system that supports mandatory increases, modifications to the state's funding formula, which is, you know, that would be a miracle if they could even explain the funding formula. Global certifications to carry over experience from other states, fully funding extraordinary aid programs, and the possibility of subject matter experts being able to teach courses in their area of expertise, among other things. So those are things that are being discussed in our legislature, and I will provide updates if and when they become available. And the next county meeting is January 30th. Regarding New Jersey School Board Association, I attended the Delegates Assembly on December 7th. And really the two relevant items I'd like to discuss or mention is a resolution regarding the Open Public Meetings Act, which is really the idea that school boards have to post their meeting notices in two newspapers and print, and with online becoming more prevalent, and some of the newspapers who are planning on terminating and stopping their print publications. specifically to Star Ledger. The resolution was to allow school boards to post their meeting notices digitally as well as print. And there is a 2-month reprieve that the governor just, that the legislature just approved to allow school boards to continue without print in 2 newspapers. So more to come with that. And then finally, excused absences for military enlistment, which is a resolution to have students who are absent from school due to enlisting in the military or some kind of training or physicals or anything related to military enlistment. Those absences would be excused absences. So that was another resolution that was passed and will eventually either make it a way into the legislature or as policy. And then finally, just wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays. I wish everyone a fantastic, healthy New Year. And with that, Dr. Nisanoff, actually, Ms. Tamayo, who's been patiently waiting for us. And so we will now go to you for the student representative group.
Thank you.
Before you start, just a couple things.
Yeah.
One, you're currently working on what? Play?
Yes.
So you're, yeah.
I have rehearsals every day right now weekdays from 3 to 5:30.
Awesome.
So the show this year is Peter Pan, and I got the role of Wendy, so it's been exciting. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The high school also hosted a coffee house recently, right?
Yeah.
And pretty successful. Who was the MC for that event?
Me. Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. And lastly, last embarrassing thing.
Yeah.
Because I know you have some former teachers here in the room.
Yeah.
So you have some big news. You got accepted to a program. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I got accepted to a direct PA program, which is physician assistant in Seton Hall. So I'm really excited. I'm still weighing out my decisions,
Okay.
obviously, but that was like my big program that I got into. So
Excellent.
thank you. And basically at school we have a couple things going on. We've been selling hot chocolate every Friday, and that money is going towards the Ronald McDonald House, which we're actually going to this Thursday. So we're really excited to do that. The Ronald McDonald House is like a home-like setting that parents can go to that's near the hospital. So if their child is having, like an 8-hour surgery, something like that, then the parents can stay at the home, wait, and then go check on their child afterwards. And so we're going there this Thursday to make lunch for the parents, and the student council also made cards for the children, so we leave there so then the parents can get it and bring it to their child, which we also did last year. We did Valentine's Day cards, so this year we're doing holiday cards, so we're excited for that. And as I said, the Ronald McDonald, we have donations that every grade gave to us. So we put boxes in teachers' classrooms, and they just dropped off any type of donations like toiletries or any type of food like cookie dough, so we can make cookies for the children this Thursday. So we're excited for that. Also, that on Monday, the Wellness Center, which is a room where kids can go to if they just feel like they need to unwind. They could stay there for 20 minutes, no phones, no computers. You just, as they say, like chill for a second. They need to just wind down. So today we had an event where students can come paint rocks and put positive messages on there. So that was a good thing that students did today. And an upcoming event that we're hoping to host is Bingo Night, which we hope to do after the holiday break. It's still in the works, but we're hoping to invite Volano Memorial to make it more big. We want to do bingo and trivia and have prizes, so we're excited for that. And our winter concert is coming up this Wednesday, so we're excited for that. And that's really it.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Ms. Tamayo. Appreciate it. And congratulations again.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Nissan.
Okay. I have a relatively brief one, but just a different angle on the whole audit accolades, I just want to share a little bit of a humorous thing, if you will. When Mr. Swisher came to us to present the audit, he had 2 comments for us. John and I lost our minds. You got to be kidding me. As it turns out, our auditors made mistakes. And that's why, if you heard him say, had to be, I should have had a bingo card. He must have said it a dozen times. Clean audit, clean audit, clean audit. He was emphasizing this was a clean audit. I think he was kind of making up for that. So, little funny story about that. Okay, couple of things. Ms. Mara mentioned about one of our staff members, or 3 of our staff members, Allison McLaughlin, Mrs. Espinoza, and Liz Hill, presented at the AMTNJ conference. For those not familiar with the acronym, the Association of Mathematics Teachers in New Jersey. So they presented to mathematics teachers from all over New Jersey on using spiral review data. I was fortunate enough to go down and watch. She did a fantastic job representing our district really, really well. Very proud. Also, Liz Hill and Ms. Espinoza and Alice also presented to the BCCC on our new 6th grade cross-curricular program. Ms. Mara also talked a little bit about some of the initiatives with regards to AI, which is rapidly coming to us from all different angles, from our children using them in our classroom to us dabbling and finding them in resources for how that can help us with our work, to new software programs being rolled out just about every day. Ms. Opperman and myself and a number of teachers in the district were able to go to a AI literacy summit right here in Northern Valley. But we're also kind of hitting the road show, trying to educate ourselves as much as possible on the impact of AI in education. So we're working really hard with that. Thank you for approving the school calendar this year. You will note we approved this year's school calendar and next year's school calendar. We spent a lot of time this year. This was a very difficult year to schedule. We had to make some difficult choices for next year, but I want to thank the faculty, the staff. I reached out to them for their input. They were very gracious with their input, and I think we struck a really good balance by the first year. We're going to be starting after Labor Day, and we are going to be going into that 3rd week of June in next year's calendar. But the following year, we'll be able to start a little bit earlier and get us out in that shorter week in June. So I'm hoping that I don't have to talk about the calendar at all for at least another year. So thank you for all that gave input with that, and thank you to the board for approving that. The winter concert, yes, it's coming up on Wednesday. You win that too?
Yes.
Okay. So once again, these rumors about teenagers spending all their time on social media and playing video games, proof positive, that's not happening here. So very much looking forward to that. Mr. Pazdar mentioned the Volano concert. What I want to point out is this: is that by my estimation, and Ms. Espinoza, please correct me if I'm wrong, well over 50% of the entire school participated in it. Students participated in that music concert. The 4th grade, where children are picking up instruments for the first time and just learning them, I estimated well over 60% of 4th graders are, and that was just the instrumental. I didn't look at the chorus. So I was just so impressed with just the numbers of kids who, as Mr. Pazdar pointed out, were having fun playing music. And, you know, we're dying to, Miss Opperman and I, we spoke about really taking a look at, you know, that link, and that's that link between participating in the music program at that young age and what does that return when they leave us in high school. So we're really excited about the future of our music program here in Emerson. And with that, lastly, wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday and a happy new year. And we'll see you early in January for the reorg meeting.
Yes. Great. Thank you, Dr. Nisanoff. And Business Administrators Report, Mr. Moore.
All right, so just wanted to say thank you to the board for their support. It really means a lot to me and also to the staff. I'm gonna have them watch the rerun of this tomorrow just to see and hear all the accolades. Because I say to them all the time, I realize it's such a great staff that we have, so professional. They take pride in their work. So to have a presentation like this from our auditors, it really means a lot to me, and it means a lot to them too. So quick shout out to Bobby, Giovanna, Ellie, Virginia, Roshni. Those are the all-stars that we work with. Also, thank you to everyone else, the administration, building secretaries, teachers. Everyone plays a part. Everyone's got to follow the rules, and sometimes I'm the bad guy, but I appreciate everyone working with us to accomplish this task. So that's all I really had for my report tonight. So happy holidays to all and Happy New Year.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Moore. With that, Mrs. Riccardi, could you open the meeting to the public for input and comments?
Yes, I motion to open the meeting for input and comments.
I second.
Seconded by Mr. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Smith, could you close the meeting to the
I move-
public for input and comments?
I move to close the meeting to the public for input and comments.
I second.
Seconded by Mrs. Riccardi. All in favor?
Aye.
And Mr. Garlick, could you close us out with motion B, please?
Yes, I move to close the meeting to the public and adjourn at 8:46 p.m. to discuss an executive session, personnel and legal matters in the conference room of the Board of Education offices. No action will be taken at this time. The board will return to open session upon completion of discussion and may or may not take action at that time. The next meeting of the Board of Education is scheduled for January 6, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. in the High School Media Center.
Thank you. All in favor?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Mara. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening. Happy holidays.
Did Sophie tell you about it?
Mrs. Felice, you may see me
I was
on
gonna
the
be
rug.
like, oh, how did you know?
I know, right?
Thank you, thank you.
I got
My
some,
daughter-
I got some feelings I want to talk about.
I applied to other people.
You may want to hear about.
Oh.
Way along.
Yeah.